Assessment review assessment will be tomorrow. So we are graphing inequalities. So first things first, I'm going to talk about what kind of line and where I'm going to shade. So I'm going to have a solid line because it's equal to, and this f of x just means y, and it's telling me y is greater than or equal to, so I'm going to shade above. So knowing that, I know that this point is my constant and it's my y-intercept because this one's in slope-intercept form because x and y are not on the same side, y is by itself. So I'm going to go to my y-axis, I'm going to put a point at 1. Okay, then I know that the number in front of x is my slope, and it's negative 1/4, which means I'm going to go down 1, right 4. Okay, I can only put up one other point, but I can also go up 1, left 4, up 1, left 4. So again, we said solid line and shade above. Okay, so let's look at our next one. So this one is going to be a dashed line because it's not equal to. Okay, and then deciding if we're going to shade above or below. Remember, you can either plug in a point, which we'll look at here in a second after we graph it, or remember, if your coefficient of y is negative, if I solved for y, what would happen to my symbol if I had to divide by that negative? I would flip it. So technically, if I were to solve for y, it would say y is greater than, so we're going to shade above. Okay, I know that can be kind of confusing, so let's do the cover-up method, and we're going to find our intercepts. So cover, because this is in standard form, x and y are on the same side. So I'm going to cover up y, and if I were to solve for x, I would get 8 divided by 4, which is 2. So on my x-axis, I'm going to put a point at 2. Now, if I cover up my x, well, 8 divided by negative 3, is that a pretty point? No. So we're not going to, it's not even worth writing down because I feel like sometimes it throws y'all off and it makes you think it's your slope. Don't even write it down. So let's go to our slope. Opposite of a over b. So negative 4 over negative 3, which is just a positive 4 over 3. So rise 1, 2, 3, 4, run 1, 2, 3. Because we're going to go up 4, right 3. We can also go down 4, left 3. Down 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Now this is a dash line. Okay, and we said shade above. Now, if you forget where to shade, I'm missing a color. Okay, you can pick a point. So remember, 0, 0 is your easiest test point as long as it's not on your line. So if I plug in 4 times 0 minus 3 times 0 is less than 8, well, anything times 0 is 0. Is 0 less than 8? Yes, so this is a true point, and we always shade the true side. So shading above, we were correct. Remember, if your coefficient of y is negative, you do the opposite of the symbol. If it's positive, then you do exactly what it says. Okay, here we're going to have a dash line. Okay, and remember, f of x just means y. So it's saying y is less, so we're going to shade below. Because if something's less, it's below you. Okay, so knowing that, I've seen a lot of people make a mistake on this one, thinking that it's just y equals negative 3 and you do a horizontal line. But there is an x and a y, therefore it's not going to happen. Now, it doesn't tell us our y-intercept because our y-intercept is just 0. If there is no y-intercept, it's because the y-intercept is 0. Okay, and our slope is negative 3, which if I had to make it a fraction would be over 1. Negative means go down, right 1. So down 1, 2, 3, right 1. 1, 2, 3, right 1. Okay, you can also go up 3, 1, 2, 3, left 1. Okay, and this is going to be a dashed line. Okay, and then we said shade below. So this one, if you have a hard time realizing what's below, remember you can put your pin on it and drag it. So if I drag it down, it just covered the side that we're going to shade. Okay, this one's in point slope form, which is fine because if we were to add 1 to both sides, that would be our y is alone, and it's saying y is less. So we know it's going to be shade below, and it's going to be a dashed line. So knowing that, remember, when you pull your slope out, your slope's just what's in front of the parentheses. And then remember, it also gives you a point. Okay, so in point slope, I said that really funny. I want you to realize you pull out the opposite. So because the formula says x minus x1, and therefore if there's a plus, it's because we had a double negative. So therefore that is a -1 for x. Here says y minus 1. Well, the formula says y minus, so we plugged in a +1. So our point is -1, 1. And our slope is rise 3, run 4. You can also go down 1, 2, 3, backwards 1, 2, 3, 4. So dashed line. And shade below. So I want you to realize on this one, we have no x value. There's no x, there's no anything. It's just y. Therefore, this is a Hoy formula, which is a horizontal line because it has a 0 slope and it's a y equals or a y inequality equation. So I want you to realize that it's going to be a solid line. Okay, and y is greater, so you're going to shade above. So I want you to realize this is saying y is 2, so a height of 2 everywhere with a solid line. And we said shade above. Okay. Now this next one is an x with no y, so this is a Vux equation, vertical undefined x equals equation. Okay, and it's a solid line because it's equal to, and it says x is less. Now this is a vertical line, so you cannot shade above or below. So you have to think, where are your smallest x values, to the left or to the right? To the left. So we're going to shade left. So this says x is less than or equal to -2, so it's sideways -2 with a solid line. And we said we're going to shade on the left because it's less than. Okay, so there's our graphing. Now let's look at actually solving and finding equations in certain forms. So I want you to realize these say that we're doing standard form. So just a reminder, standard form is ax plus y equals c. Okay, the two things that we need to understand when we're solving for standard form is that you need to find your a, b, and c. Those are your goals. And we know that slope is opposite of a over b. Okay, those are things we have to remember. So if this one gives us slope, remember it's opposite of a, so remember we're finding a, b, and c. So opposite of the top is your a, so -4. Bottom is exact is your b, but we don't know c. Okay, so we're halfway there, or most of the way there. Okay, so we're going to plug in what we know. -4 times x plus 5y equals c. Well, also, doesn't it tell us this point? So we can plug that point in for x and y. This is my x, this is my y. So -4 times 10 plus 5 times -3 equals c. And then use your calculator. -4 times 10 plus 5 times -3. So it tells me -55. So I know that c equals -55. Now, is a allowed to be negative? No. So I want you to realize you could write it out and multiply the whole thing by -1, right? Okay, but if you notice here, could you just make everything opposite? So 4 becomes positive, 5 becomes negative, 55 becomes positive. So we end up getting for our final answer 4x minus 5y equals positive 55. Okay, so let's look at number 8. So again, we're writing in standard form, so again we'll have to find our a, b, and c. Now this one doesn't give us slope, but it gives us 2 points. So we can find our slope from 2 points by doing y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So our slope is going to be 4 minus -3 over -8 minus -6. What happens with those double negatives in the middle? They become positive. Okay, which gives us 7 over -2. Now, does it matter where that negative goes? No. Okay, so I want you to realize you can rewrite this as -7 over 2, okay, where you just put the negative out front. And I like to give the negative to the top because opposite of the top is your a value, and we want a to be positive. So if I give the negative to the top, that becomes positive 7. The bottom becomes 2. And we still have to find c. So then we can plug in. We know 7x plus 2y equals c. We can pick either point, doesn't matter. 7 times -6 plus 2 times -3 equals c. And it becomes calculator. 7 times -6 plus 2 times -3, and I get -48. Well, a is positive, so that's exactly what I want. So I end up getting 7x plus 2y equals -48. Okay, so here we start talking about parallel and perpendicular. Okay, and I want you to realize parallel just means same slope. Okay, so it tells me it's parallel to this line. Y'all, the only thing I need from this line is the slope. And it's in slope-intercept form, so my slope is -2. I don't need the -5. I don't need anything else. That doesn't tell me anything because all I was saying is it's parallel, so we just want the slope. So we know here that we're still putting it in standard form, so we still have to find a, b, and c. But I know that my slope is negative 2, which as I wrote as a fraction would be negative 2 over 1. Slope is opposite of a over b. What's the opposite of negative 2? Positive 2. And b is 1. So I know so far I have 2x plus 1y equals c. And we have this point we can plug in. So 2 times 3 plus 1 times 11 equals my c. 2 times 3 plus 1 times 11 is 17. So a is positive, so I can literally just write it out. 2x plus y equals 17. Do I have to put that 1 in front of my y? No. If you do, it's not wrong. It would be totally fine. Okay? Just know if you're online and you put a 1 in front of your y, it might count it wrong, but don't worry. I go back through and I will fix it. So perpendicular to the line, y equals the line, talking like my 3-year-old. Okay, perpendicular to the line, y equals 3x plus 4 and passes through this point. So again, perpendicular means opposite, reciprocal. Okay, so just remember, positive versus negative is what it means for opposite. So if it's positive, the opposite would be negative. Negative, opposite is positive. Reciprocal just means flip. Okay, so my slope here, this is in slope-intercept form, so I have 3 as my slope. Now that's a positive 3, so I want you to realize when I find the opposite reciprocal, what does it become? Negative. And if I wrote this as a fraction, it'd be 3 over 1, so if I flip it, it becomes negative 1 over 3. So my slope is negative 1 over 3. So opposite of negative 1 is positive 1. B is 3. So I know 1x plus 3y equals c, and I know this point. So 1 times 6 plus 3 times 8 equals c. And that gives me 30. Do I need to change anything before I write my formula? No, because a is positive. Now, do I have to put the 1? No, so it just becomes x plus 3y equals 30. Okay, this bottom one says passes through negative 5, 7 and perpendicular to y equals 3. I want you to realize this is a Hoy equation, which means if I were to quickly graph this, Hoy is a horizontal line at y at a height of 3. This is what it would look like. What is perpendicular to a horizontal line? What kind of straight line? It's 90 degrees, so it'd be a vertical line. So I need, so like negative 5, 7 would be like somewhere over here. I need a vertical line that goes through that point, because that's what's perpendicular to a perfect horizontal line. So I need a Vux equation. Well, if it's vertical undefined x equals equation, what's the x of my point? Negative 5. There's your answer. So remember, perpendicular to a y equals equation is an x equals equation. But remember, when I say y equals, a lot of our equations are y equals, but y equals with no x. Okay, a zero slope, a Hoy equation. Because that's the x of my point that it has to go through. Okay, let's look at the back. I like those because they're quick if you remember. Now, these say slope-intercept form, so let's talk about what we know. Slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. We have to find m and b when it's in this form, and really that's all we need to know. I like slope-intercept form because it gives us two things right away. It gives us our slope, it gives us our intercept. So, I don't know, it tells you things. Standard form doesn't tell you anything, you have to find things from it. Okay, so knowing that, it says my slope is negative 5, and it passes through this point. So already, if I'm finding m and b, I know m is negative 5. Already halfway done. but I don't know b. But I do know a point that it has to go through, and so y equals negative 5x plus b. Plug in your point. This is your x, this is your y. So negative 8 equals negative 5 parentheses negative 3 plus b. What's negative 5 times negative 3? Positive 15. And now how do I get b by itself? I'm going to subtract 15 from both sides. Okay, and I get b equals, what is that, 23? Negative 23? Yeah. So I know b is negative 23, and I'm done, because it doesn't matter if the slope is negative. We know y equals negative 5x minus 23. Okay, so again, our goal on all of these is to find our m and our b. I'm going to go ahead and write it so we don't forget what form we're working with. Okay, now I'm just given 2 points. So again, we're going to have to find slope by doing change in y over change in x. So negative 5 minus 2 over 3 minus 6. So that gives me negative 7 over negative 3. 2 negatives makes a positive. So I know my slope is 7 over 3. Okay, now that's all I know. But I also know that I need to go through one of those points. So I'm going to plug in what I know, y equals 7 over 3x plus b, and I'm going to pick one point. Doesn't matter which one. Either way, you should get the exact same answer because it goes through both of those points. Those should be solutions to the line. Okay, so knowing that 2 equals 7 over 3 times 6 plus b. Use your calculator, y'all. 7 over, not times, divide 3 times 6 is 14. Okay, so this is 2 equals 14 plus b. Subtract 14 from both sides, and what does b equal? Negative 12. So my final equation is y equals 7 over 3x minus 12. Okay, so knowing that, this one says parallel to the line 3 over 2x minus 5 and passes through this. Parallel means what? Same slope. So I know my slope is 3 over 2. So already I know I have y equals 3 over 2x, but I don't know b. But I know it has to go through this point. So negative 5 equals 3 over 2 times 4 plus b. Is 6. So negative 5 equals 6 plus b. How do I get b by itself? Subtract 6 from both sides, and I get b equals negative 11. So I get y equals 3 over 2x minus 11. Okay, perpendicular means opposite. Reciprocal. Y'all, I probably spell it different every time, so no judgment. Okay, I know my slope is a half, but I have to figure out the opposite reciprocal to that. So 1/2 is positive, so I know that it's going to become negative. And when I flip it, I get 2 over 1, which is just negative 2. So I know my slope is negative 2. So y equals negative 2x plus b, and I'm going to plug in my point. Okay, and I get negative 3 equals positive 2 plus b, minus 2 minus 2, b equals negative 5. So I get y equals negative 2x minus 5. Now this last one, I did put m and b, but what kind of line is it giving me? A y equals just a number, so that's a Hoy equation. So it says it passes through this point and it's parallel. So think about it. If we were to graph this, I know that this would be y is a height of 7. Well, parallel means what? Same slope. Well, what is the slope of this line? 0. So I need another equation with a 0 slope, but it's still gonna be a y equals equation, y'all, because that's what would be parallel. I need a 0 slope, but what would y equal? What does y equal in the point I need it to go through? So parallel to a Hoy equation is a Hoy equation. Parallel to a Vux equation is a Vux equation. Okay, perpendicular is the opposite. Okay, these last two are kind of formatted like the ones on your test. I mean, assessment, sorry. I do think your assessment's a little easier because it's technically multiple choice. There's a bank at the bottom that you get to pick from, so you can use all that to your advantage. But here we go. Okay, so how do you find slope from a standard form equation? Opposite of a over b, so negative 3 over negative 2, which just becomes positive 3 over 2. So if we put it in slope-intercept form, well, let's find our intercepts. How do you find intercepts from standard form? Cover up. So my x-intercept is going to be 8 over 3. It's not a pretty point, but it's an intercept. Okay, my y-intercept is going to be 8 over negative 2, which is what? Now, slope-intercept form, isn't that y equals m, which we just found, x, plus our y-intercept? Well, what's my y-intercept? Did I have to do any true math to, solve for that equation? No. Now you could have. You could have subtracted 3x from both sides and divided everything by negative 2. You would have gotten the exact same thing. Okay, so knowing that, you will be given a graphing calculator tomorrow for the tables. Okay, but just so you know, could you put this in your y equals? Yes. X minus 4, second graph. I don't know why I looked at that. I mean, that will help you with the graph. But I know that I'm looking for negative 5.5. And so one trick, just so y'all know, I did the fancy way of an fraction. Goodness gracious, I don't know why I couldn't think of that word. But if you leave it like this, it will give you decimals versus... so now I can actually see negative 5.5 is negative 1. 3.5 is at 5. 5 is at 6. 6.5 is at 7. And then lastly, y'all, the graph, you can literally plot. So y-intercept is negative 4. We know that we're going up 3 over 2, up 1, 2, 3 over 2. And so if it's multiple choice, you should be able to tell just by the intercepts or things like the slope. Okay, those are ways that you can figure out what it is. If it's a positive slope, you know it's going up from left to right. If it's a negative slope, it's going down from left to right. Different things like those. Use your testing strategies to help you cross off the ones that you know aren't the answers. Does that make sense? Okay. Okay, then this last one. The ones on your assessment are prettier than this, I'm sorry. Okay, so again, it gives me standard form. Remember, opposite of A, so negative 1 over B, so I know my slope is 1/5. Now, parallel means same slope, right? So 1/5 is my parallel slope. Perpendicular, though, this is positive, so my perpendicular slope is going to be negative. And when I flip it, I get 5 over 1, which is just 5. Negative 5 is because that's the opposite reciprocal. Now, if we find an equation parallel going through this point, well, parallel is going to be a slope of 1/5. It doesn't tell me what kind of equation either, so I would put it in slope-intercept. That's just me. So we know it goes through this point, so we have y equals 1/5 x plus b. So plug in our point. Negative 2 equals 1/5 times 3 plus b. So this is what I was saying, is it's not a pretty point. So I want to put this as a fraction, and I'm going to multiply by 5. Oh no, hold on. Oh yeah, I am. To make my denominators match. So this gives me negative 10 over 5 equals 3 over 5 x plus b. I don't know why I put that there. Okay, and then I'll subtract 3 over 5 from both sides, and I get y equals 1/5 x, and then that gives me negative 13 over 5. The ones on your assessment are not like that. They will give you a pretty number like the other ones. Now perpendicular, I would use this negative 5 slope. So y equals negative 5x plus b. Plug in my point. Negative 8 equals negative 5x. Oh, sorry. X is 4 plus b. So if y'all need to go, you can go. Negative 8 equals negative 20 plus b. Add 20 to both sides, and we get b equals, what does that give me? 12. So y equals negative 5x plus 12. Good luck on your assessment. Let me know if y'all have any questions.